Hi, friends. Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made a difference, and no one can say that he didn't. Schooled in the Bible and a Christian pastor, he was well aware of the way that Jesus went about doing his work. He adopted that same nonviolent approach and was rewarded for it with a legacy that today speaks volumes about the value of nonviolence. Some of his most significant accomplishments over his lifetime include leadership in the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. played a key role in the American civil rights movement from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968 at the hands of James Earl Ray, an escaped prisoner from the state of Missouri. Though many to this day believe that the CIA or some other agency was involved, that's never been proved. Sadly, his death set off riots and violence all over the United States. It was not a fitting tribute to his legacy of nonviolence. Nevertheless, no one can deny he was a central figure in advocating for equal rights for African Americans. Among the other things that he did, he participated in and organized the Montgomery bus boycott. He emerged as a leader during that boycott from 1955 to 1956. It was a successful protest against racial segregation on public transportation. The boycott marked the beginning of his leadership, as I said. The boycott took place from December 5, 1955 to December 20th, 1956, and is regarded as the first large-scale U.S. demonstration against segregation. 4 days before the boycott began, Rosa Parks, an African-American woman, was arrested and fined for refusing to yield her bus seat to a white man. The United States Supreme Court ultimately ordered Montgomery to integrate its bus system. And again, Martin Luther King was instrumental in setting the stage for that. He founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and it was a key organization in the civil rights movement. It was founded in 1957, and it aimed to coordinate and support nonviolent direct action to challenge segregation and discrimination. In 1963, he was part of the March on Washington, and he delivered a speech out in front of the Capitol Mall, and it's been referred to as his I Have a Dream speech. Now, this speech is one of the most iconic moments in the history of the civil rights movement and is often quoted in discussions about racial equality. And I want to read some of the passages from that speech a little bit later. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is another of King's achievements. His efforts, along with the other civil rights leaders, contributed to the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. This landmark legislation outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. To this day, which is 60 years later, anyone who brings a lawsuit under the statute effectively salutes Martin Luther King's leadership. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 for his nonviolent struggle for civil rights, and he remains one of the youngest recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 is another capstone event in his legacy. He and others were responsible for the passage, which aimed to overcome legal barriers at the state and local levels that prevented African Americans from exercising their right to vote. And the Chicago open housing movement in the late 1960s expanded his focus to issues of economic justice, including advocating for fair housing practices in Chicago. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy extends well beyond these accomplishments, and his work continues to inspire movements for social justice around the world. One of the most frequently quoted speeches is his I Have a Dream speech. He delivered this, like I said, during the March on Washington on August 28, 1963. In this speech, he eloquently expressed his dream for a future where people would be judged by the character rather than the color of their skin, advocating for racial equality and justice. The speech is widely celebrated for its inspiring and enduring message, but one of the things that I think lawyers tend to appreciate about it is its visionary use of language. Consider this from the speech. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The use of the imagery of a promissory note was rhetorically brilliant. He urged immediate action, again with visionary language. He said, "We have come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or taking the tranquilizing drug of gradualism." Well, the drug of gradualism is a paralyzing agent in American politics. While politicians shouldn't rush into things, they have to act with some restraint. His description of gradualism as a drug was essentially a brilliant rhetorical move because gradualism does tend to slow things down and it limits the progress that gets made. And as noted, he made the speech in 63, and in 64 and in 65, there were big changes that came. So it worked. Dr. King also wanted to dissuade his followers and disadvantaged peoples everywhere from violence. He said, "But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred." Unfortunately, as mentioned, drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred was what happened when he was shot and assassinated. But by then, African Americans in America had already seen their white counterparts fully imbibe of that intoxicant. The part of the speech that is best remembered, however, is the part dealing with his dream for a better America. My favorite parts of that are this: "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of the skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right down in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today." Martin Luther King was an amazing man, a doctorate, a pastor, a leader, a God-fearing man, and he left a legacy to all of us. Today, on the holiday, take time to reflect on the meaning of his speech and his life. Help make America better. That's all I have for you. Thanks for watching.
If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.